The EBN Entertainment Broadcast Network presents, live from Chisel Multimedia Studio, the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show. Here's your host, Chris Massey.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris Massey and welcome to the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show here on the Entertainment Broadcast Network. We're coming to you live tonight from our Chisel Multimedia Studios here in Smyrna, Georgia, and I am joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Matt Roberts. Matt, how we doing tonight?
All good.
Is it hot enough for you,
Very,
Mr. Roberts? I think it's hot enough for everybody out there. We're ready for it to cool down, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen until around October 1st. And that's right, there's no such thing as global warming. It just stays hotter longer than it used to. Anyway. This past week in rock music, we lost two icons. Mr. Eddie Money passed away at the age of 70, and Rick Ocasek, one of the frontmen for the rock group The Cars, passed away at the age of 75. Now, I was in high school between the years 1975 and 1980 when both Eddie Money and The Cars made their debut on radio stations all across the country. Eddie Money was a fantastic performer. He did some really good songs. He had 5 hits that I know of. Baby Hold On To Me, 2 Tickets to Paradise, Take Me Home Tonight, Shakin', and I Think I'm in Love. I never owned an Eddie Money album, but I heard him on the radio a lot, and I never changed the station when I heard him. Got to see him perform live at the first Champagne Jam in 1978. Eddie never made it to superstar status. What I mean by that is being able to go on a tour and sell out 20,000 seat arenas all over the country. But he toured and played places like Fox Theater, 4,000 seat halls, very respected by all of his peers in the music business. And for a 10-year period, he was all over the radio, and that is a very hard thing to do. And I was sad to see him go because when I hear his songs, it certainly takes me back to my youth. Rick Ocasek was in the band The Cars. Their debut album came out in 1978, and you cannot understand. What am I trying to say here, Matt? Their record was very important when it came out, and here's why. In 1978, The Clash, the Sex Pistols, Elvis Costello, the Ramones, the Talking Heads, and Blondie had all put out albums, but none of these bands were getting airplay except for the Talking Heads' Psycho Killer, which barely broke the Billboard Top 100, coming in at number 92. At that time in rock music, it was being dominated by groups like Ted Nugent, Aerosmith, Led Zeppelin, Lynyrd Skynyrd, ZZ Top, and other hard-driving rock bands. And what they called new wave music at that time was kind of being put on the back burner and was really kind of an underground college radio thing. Well, that all changed when the Cars album came out in 1978. With the first single, Just What I Needed, followed by My Best Friend's Girl and Let the Good Times Roll, the album took off. And this album opened the doors for many other artists. 2 months after the Cars album came out, Blondie put out her third record and instantly got airplay. A month after that, the Police put out their debut album, and it got airplay right off the bat. Within a year, record companies were signing bands like The Pretenders and Joe Jackson. Bands like Devo and The Clash were getting a commercial airplay as well. If this album wouldn't have done what it did, punk rock and new wave music may have stayed on the back burner for quite some time. You could not deny that the sound the Cars had back then was completely different from what was going on, and they forced radio stations all over the country to change their way of thinking and start to play some of these new bands. And as we well know, as we got into the early 1980s and MTV hit the airwaves, that music changed. Bands like the Human League, The Fix, Flock of Seagulls, just to name a few, that were getting a lot of airplay at that time. Rick Ocasek was an outstanding songwriter. He was the main songwriter in The Cars. And The Cars, here's a little fact that you may not know, The Cars were the first band since the Beatles to land 2 top 10 singles with 2 different lead singers. How about that? Did you know that, Andy Browne?
Ben Orr.
Yeah, Benjamin Orr. Well, Benjamin Orr was a badass. He was, and he left this world way too soon. It was interesting to find out that Ric Ocasek was 75 years old, which would made him 34 years old when their first album came out. That's a long time to be hanging in there. Of course, he was also married to that beautiful model. I can't pronounce her name, so I'm not even going to try. I looked it up today, and Eddie Money had a net worth of $20 million. And Ric Ocasek had a net worth of $80 million. Plus his wife had made $42 million in her career as modeling. So when the music business is good, it's good. It's really good, you know. So anyway, my guest tonight is Mr. Andy Browne and his bass player, Miss Lucy Theodora. We'll be right back. You just saw the Andy Browne Troupe performing Mercy at Club 529. Back in the 80s when I was playing in the Mistakes and doing the punk rock thing, my guest Andy Browne was fronting a band called the Night Porters, which were one of the more popular and successful bands of that great Atlanta music scene in the 1980s. These days he has a band called the Andy Browne Troupe. They play a very original type of music that we're going to be talking about what he calls it and everything. He also brought along his bass player, Miss Lucy Theodora. So would you please welcome Mr. Andy Browne and Lucy Theodora from the Andy Browne Troupe. Come on in. Come on in. Have a seat. Very good.
Good to see.
Have a seat, Lucy. Very good. Very good. All right. So you're back on the show. And the last time you were here, I was on the other network and I got fired right after that show.
I remember that.
I got fired right after the show, and we were all here. Matt was here, and you know, and what can I tell you? You know, now I got a show, and I never talk about politics anymore, but because there's nothing to talk about. But if there was, I would. But anyway, so I'm with a new network, new boss, and you know, and they said, you know, why don't you get Andy Browne and them back on since the last show didn't go so well, and that was my fault. But anyway, so how you been?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing all right.
Lucy Theodora. The Dora.
Theodora.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay. All right. You have to excuse my DeKalb County High School learning there.
Sure.
So.
I just want to make that little assessment as you went.
I was in the neighborhood though.
Yes.
You were, yes.
Yeah, I was in the neighborhood there.
I was named after my grandfather. He was Theodore.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Very good. And like I was saying, now the last time you were here with Andy, and you were not playing bass in the band at that time.
No.
And I understand you had put it down for a while, and Andy bought you a bass for Christmas.
He did.
And your motive was to get her in the band, not just give her a Christmas present. I mean, let's be honest here, right?
Certainly, yes. That was my motive, yes. Solves a lot of problems.
Yeah. So you just let the other bass player go. I mean, when your lady can play bass, I mean, you know, he should be able to see the writing on the wall, you know. So anyway, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Now, I have listened to some of this music you have now with the Andy Browne Troupe, and it's very good. It's very original sounding. You know, incorporating the trombone and just the trombone. You know, you don't have a trumpet and a sax and a trombone like a traditional horn section. It's just the trombone, which gives which adds a lot to the bottom end of the sound that you have. How would you describe what you guys do?
Well, it's an eclectic mix. We have a wide assortment of people, very talented musicians, but it's really I mean, like you, I like everything from Bowie and Miles Davis, and I mean, you name it, it's gone through these years and processed, and
right.
And we talk about music, me and you, when we're talking as friends, and we go through the whole blues and just from here to here and here, and so it's I don't like to put anything on it, a stamp, but it's an amalgamation of like a collective.
Well, did you have a vision for the sound, or did it just kind of happen?
So I spent a couple years really listening to Miles Davis and Sinatra after years of the Stones and the Cars, who I love, one of my first albums. So I went through all the rock stuff, and then, but now it's kind of going back to like 40s and 50s,
right.
and then trying to, shape that into a just a real kind of interesting mix.
I got you.
So, but one band that you did mention, which brought us pretty close together and keeps us tight, is The Clash.
Okay.
And Lucy's a big fan of Joe Strummer. Me too.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that.
So when we talk about her bass playing, she'll tell you a little bit who she listens to, but that was some of the first music that we started playing together. So we're talking about playing covers. It was rehearsing, for them. So
now, Lucy, you were a spectator of this band for how long?
I guess about a year.
About a year.
Mm-hmm.
So when you came into the band, being a musician first and girlfriend second, did you have some ideas about what you would like to see happen, or were you pretty much on board with what was going on?
No, I was on board with what was going on and just let it evolve the way it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And even though when you bring a new person into the band, their style puts an imprint on the music. I mean, you don't ever get a new guitar player or a new drummer or a new bass player without the sound changing, and hopefully for the better. That's usually how it is. Because I know that's how it is with my band. If I got a gig somewhere and one of my guys can't make it, I got guys that can fill in.
Right.
But I know whoever's filling in, well, that's going to affect the song list that night. Because I know this is his style. This is what we do best with him. So we're going to play these tunes tonight, as opposed to stuff like that.
We got very lucky with a combination. We have this Brad Madsen on drums, who is well versed in any style, and Jeff Ford's on guitar, and he's just incredible. Billy Fields plays piano. He plays in a couple other bands locally, but he just got voted like Atlanta's best keyboard, and
oh wow!
So the Creative Loafing thing, and then we have Matt Scott on trombone, and then occasionally Shane Perryman will come in, and a couple of different guys, because they do get busy, those trombone players. But I wanted to mention about the trombone and horns. And so, after listening to Miles, and I love Miles Davis, it used to be all about Bob Dylan or Storm, now it's Miles, because whatever. But to me, a certain horn, the low end of a trombone, it brings it. And sometimes other horns can be more abrasive. But
right. Yeah.
Trombone can be very smooth, and
I agree with that.
Yeah. So that's my great love of the trombone. It's just
trombone is more like an acoustic guitar sound versus a trumpet would be electric.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's low and mids, and as I get older, I try to avoid treble. Mm-hmm. And the producer of our new record, Palmer Wood, I'm always going, take all the treble. He goes, no, it's not yours. It's who's going to be listening to it. But
right.
So we are in the middle of a new album right now.
Okay.
And my best friend in the world, Palmer Wood's doing that with us and for us. And the sound is pretty big. We're going back to like the Who and different influences from the past and bringing that forward. Elephants that we did last year was kind of more progressively modern, drum machines, whatever. The songs were still there, but this is a more organic album.
Now, Lucy, what is Andy like to work in the studio? What's it like working with him in the studio?
It's pretty easy. I mean, he likes to let people be themselves, do what they want to do. I mean, his playing with him is very it flows, because he really doesn't he doesn't object like some people would to you saying, okay, well, what about this? And so he's really open.
I got you. Do you produce the record? Co-producer?
I maybe make some suggestions, but Palmer's my BS detector. So when I start putting too many harmonies on, he's like, "No, that's what we're doing." So I try, but I have done stuff, but it's in his hands. I trust the man, and have so for a long time. We were talking about, Lucy mentioned, you asked her about working with people. I think the most important aspect of any band is chemistry. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
And given that fact, I've been in a couple bands, and sometimes, people can be this, I want it like this, I want it like that, whatever they might be like. I have found that if you have talent and you let those people breathe, they'll give you everything.
Right.
But if you subdue them and say, I want it just like this, you're not the only one in the band. So the most important aspect in creation of this Andy Browne Troupe was bring people to the table and let them, nobody's more important than anyone else. That's including me. All I do is sing. A big deal. So it was let people have their say. It may come from a bass or a trombone or a keyboard, whatever it is. I guess what I'm saying is, and I never really felt this way, that everybody's equal in this band.
Okay.
There's no egos, which is a great thing.
I'm a little different. I have to say that, I listen to anybody's ideas, okay? And I have no problem telling you that your idea is better than mine and we need to go with what you want. I also have no problem telling you that your idea is not as good as mine, and we're going to go with what I said.
That's the ultimate, yeah.
First.
I mean,
but it's a different situation because, and all bands are set up different. But I finance everything. I'm the one that's writing the check at the studio or whatever. But I do want everybody's input because the fact is that lots of times their idea is better than mine. And so that's what we need. That's what we need to go with. Because I go in when I take a song to my group and I go in there, I already know what I want the bass to do,
right?
What I want the drums to do. I can hear the steel guitar, where the harmony. It's the whole thing. It's not just And I learned early on, for me, what's worked better is I never go to rehearsal with an idea. I show up with a song. I show up with a song with an arrangement. The whole jam. Because when you show up with an idea, it is nothing. It turns out to be something that I wasn't crazy about to start with. So that's kind of the way that I operate, and the guys are used to it, and it saves a lot of time and stuff. But they'll tell me, they'll say, we don't really like the song is very good. Do you have something else and stuff like that. But the thing is in order to have good chemistry, you got to be able to be honest with everybody. And nobody take it personal.
Well, that's it. And there is a guy in charge, but they listen to people more than they might have when they were younger.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like growing up, understanding that people, they want to be heard too.
Sure.
It could be a democracy, it could be whatever it is, but eventually somebody's going to say no or yes, and somebody's going to make decisions.
Somebody's got to make decisions.
Or whoever.
And and you may get into the studio and start laying down the rhythm tracks, and then it just hits you right between the eyes. We need to do this different. It's not sounding like I thought it was going to sound, or this or that or the other.
The funny thing about that is you mentioned rehearsals, and our drummer Brad, he runs Books for Africa, not far from here. So what I found, we were talking about songwriting earlier, me and you. Those songs that me and Lucy will come up with an idea, a riff or whatever, we take them into Brad. The ones that work right away are usually the simplest ones, the easiest ones. And we know within the first rehearsal, because if we select 10 and 2, so we know right away this is going to work with the rest of the band, So, but we don't, it'll be me and Lucy and Brad rehearsing and testing them out. Mm-hmm. And so, but it's a good test because if they work right away, they're going to work with the band, which bring everybody else in and stuff. So you said about ideas. We do bring in ideas, and if we play them for 5 or 10 minutes and it doesn't, you feel it. Like you come out the studio and it's there. You go, let's milk this, let's nurture it and get it where it can be. Potential. That's what we're talking about.
We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back. Y'all stay right here. We'll be right back.
had been away, hadn't changed, hadn't much to say. Man, I still think them cats are crazy. They were asking if you were around, how you was and where could you be found. Told them that you make your living downtown, driving all the old men crazy. The boys are back in town. Oh yeah. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. To dance a lot. Every night she'd be on the floor shaking what she got. Man, when I tell you she was cool, she was red hot. I mean that she was steaming. And that time over at Johnny's place, well, this chick got up and she slapped Johnny's face. Man, we fell about the place. If that chick don't wanna know, forget her. The boys are back in town. Oh yeah. The boys are back in town. Back in town. The boys are back in town. Bar and grill. The drink will flow and the blood will spill. And the boys wanna fight, you better let them. The jukebox in the corner blasting out my favorite song. These nights are getting warmer and it won't be long. Won't be long till the summer comes. Now the boys are here again.
All right, that was Thin Lizzy. And the boys are back in town. Boy, that is a real live rock and roll band. Right there. All right, we're back with Andy Browne and Lucy Theodora. There we go. So this new record, how long does it take you guys to record an album usually?
Well, we could do it in a couple of days, but Palmer's got other work too, and we all do. So we're kind of coming and going, and some weekends we miss. So if we look at collective hours, it's going to be short. I couldn't tell you now because we're not done. We're working on 5 songs right now. We're going to get those done, and then we're going to do the other 5 in maybe next month and stuff like that. So.
Well, you know, money dictates the pace, or at least it does for me. When we go in to make a record, that's how fast. I mean, you're right. We could go in there and knock it out in 10 days. It usually takes me about 6 months. About 6 months. You know, we do a session. A couple of weeks go by, you know, and then it's another few $100s, and you go in and you do some more But you know, I like doing it like that. Like I saw a thing where Blackberry Smoke, the album they did with Brendan O'Brien, they did the whole thing in 2 weeks. To me, I really like to spend a lot of time listening to all the tracks. You know, so and you know, like I recorded my last album with Jeff Bakos.
Right.
And you know, and we got in there and started mixing it down. And what I do is we do everything, and then he does what I call a pre-master mix, and I go in and listen to it. You know, and then I said, you know, there's some steel guitar parts in this song that you don't have in there. And I know that because when we did the steel guitar tracks, I listened to them for a week, you know, and I know they're in there. And you can't do that when you record it fast. You know, it can't be done. You know, you're going to, you know, and I think I heard Mick Jagger say one time, you know, that the Stones have never done an album that when it came out, he didn't say, we should have done that different. You know, everybody. My second record was called Cowboy Heart. Came out in 2012, and the title track on there, we started playing it a different way, more rocking, about 3 months ago. And that album I recorded it 7 years ago, and I'm thinking, God, Wish I would have known that.
Well, you come up to a point though. It's like there's two different worlds, and we're spending our time getting this one right. There's two worlds. There's the live, and then there's the studio. And,
sure.
You could go see a band note for note sometimes, and you're like, well, I should have stayed home. But
like the Eagles.
The Eagles are alienate any Eagles fans.
Well, I don't want to, but they're known for that.
So
they're known for playing just like the record.
There are bands that put on amazing live shows, and they're just so energetic and just wow. And then the records still sound good, but it's not the same thing. And we do come from that school because we're not interested in just.
Sure.
We want a show.
Well, I can just tell you, and you look it up on YouTube. They asked David Crosby about the Eagles, and here's what he did. And he said, they take no chances.
Yes, it's like that.
They take no chances. They play it note for note, and it's and I got one of my guitar players, a very good guitar player. You saw him play with me.
Yeah, it's great.
Daniel never plays the lead the same. on any song we do. I mean, and I told him, I said, pick a lead, pick a good one, and play it the same. And I've been preaching this to him for 6 years. It is not going to happen. It is just not going to happen, And I said, you realize if we ever had a hit song, you'd have to play that lead live or close to it anyway, But it keeps it interesting. It does do that. So when do you anticipate the album being out?
So where are we now? In the middle of September. So we should have. We'll have these 5 songs done in maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then we're gonna go back in and do another 5. So we're gonna have some vinyl done, and it may be into early next year, it may be into the fall. Right now we're discussing things with different people.
So you don't really have a deadline. You're just gonna. It's gonna be finished when it's finished.
We're gonna be finished when it's right. That's
exactly.
what.
I got you. Okay.
But we do have some things coming up, and we're playing Roswell Arts Festival on this Saturday.
Wow.
21st. Then we're playing Oakhurst Porch Fest on October 12th. At 3 p.m. and then we're playing that night, I believe, at Sun Burma Records, and then we're going out to Macon November 9th. We're staying very busy. We got a lot of stuff on our plate. Stuff's coming in now, and we're not interested in doing everything that's offered, just selective.
Now, who's booking the band? You doing that?
Yeah, well, we talk about it. Yeah, Lucy serves as.
You enjoying that part of the business? Because I hate it.
Well, truth be told,
I absolutely. The older I have gotten. The part that I enjoy the most is when we get on the stage.
Well, yeah.
Everything that, other than rehearsing, everything that has to happen between when you get the okay on the phone call to getting there. I mean, it has not changed in 40 years. People don't, I don't know what it is about when you get a job booking a club. You just automatically, your brain tells you not to call people back. They don't call you back, and then you finally get a hold of them, or they'll say, come down here on Thursday night, we'll talk, and you go down there on Thursday night, well, they're not here tonight, and I'm not coming down on club owners, and you're not all like that, you're not all like that, but it's hard, and especially putting together a tour and booking stuff like that. When we went out to the West Coast, we played 10 dates, I called 60 clubs. 60 clubs between Georgia and California and back to book 10 dates. And I got the last one like a week before we left. We got the last spot, because, you got to space the time and the travel and this and that and the other and that type of thing. So that's the thing as I get older. If I had somebody, I would pay somebody, if you're listening, I'll pay somebody handsomely to book the band.
Well, you can hire a booking agent to do that stuff,
Yeah, but they want booking agents and all original music are not something that really go together real well because they want to make money, and the money is in the cover music. I mean it is.
People want to make money in music.
Yeah, they do. They want to they want to book you at a wedding that pays $1,500, and you got to play. Signed, sealed, delivered, and let somebody's fat Uncle Fred get up there and sing old time rock and roll, for that money. And I'm not doing that.
To answer your original question, do I enjoy it? Yes, I do. You know why? The power of no. When I know something's not right, I just say no.
Yeah, well, and the older I've gotten, when you're young, any opportunity you get, you want to jump on it. And now, if if you know, like we were supposed to play this Sunday at Old Fourth Ward Park for a big fundraiser. And we're opening up for this country guy named Cody Maxwell, very fine artist. And, you know, last week they called and said, well, the board had another meeting and we don't have the funds to pay you. So you're welcome to come play, but we cannot pay you. And I was like, are you serious? You know, really? And she said, yeah. And I said, and the guys that play with me, they play all the time. So one of them had already turned down a gig to do this one. Now I'm on the hook for that. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
And so now, not only are they not paying me, but it's costing me money to not be there. And the best they could do was just say that, you know, we're sorry. You know, so that, but you know, it's all part of the business. It's all part of the business. You know, and if you got 3 or 4 gigs that come together really, really smooth, you better be on your toes because you're due for one to be a cluster, you know what.
Right.
You know, so.
No, I enjoy the business. I you know, we're dealing with people. I kind of made a decision when I moved back that I wasn't gonna deal with any nonsense or people that maybe shouldn't be in our tribe. And so we seem to be getting help from outside sources.
Well, that's good.
And so when I truly believe that, like, you know, when you need something or want something, if you wish upon a star maybe or something like that, I don't know, it just seems to be working out very well. You know,
Right.
The people that we have involved in our team, it's kind of the way it should be.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I'm a little, because of what just happened to me, I'm a little more sour than I
We'll have you over for dinner.
than I should be. But I do not enjoy.
It's only money.
But I do not enjoy booking the band. That's the thing that I probably, you know, it just takes a lot of time, and sometimes it feels very unproductive. And then, you know, when you finally do get something, you know, and so. But anyway, so you'll be at the Roswell Arts Festival this Saturday
At 3 p.m., yes, and then we got a bunch of stuff on the plate, and some of it we're saying no to, and some of it we're saying, that sounds good. Let's
Well,
do
some
it.
of the stuff you're saying no to, send them my way.
They may be the people that you've already dealt with. I don't
It
know.
may be. Who knows?
And you don't want to
There's
go
not
back
many.
there, you know.
After all these years, there's not many people that I haven't that I have not dealt with.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know. So, but anyway. So Lucy, you planning on playing that bass for a while now? You're gonna stick
oh, yeah,
with it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, I love it.
All right.
She keeps
Okay.
getting, she got a place. She keeps getting new gear.
Yeah. Yeah. You tell him when you think something's not very good.
Not often, because there isn't a lot that I don't
Oh, well, that's
like.
good.
I mean, the objective is to bring what I can to make it the best band
I
that
got you.
I can help make it be.
See, my wife is not a musician, and she Becky comes to about one show a year, you know, but she hears me writing all the time, and she'll pop her head in sometimes and say, "That's really good. We should really work on that."
That I do say that.
And then other times she'll say, you know, and she can tell me that, you know, you need to take that in a different direction.
That's very,
You know,
That's
like
good.
maybe to the trash can, you know. But, you know, if you write, the whole key is if you write, you know, you show me a guy that's written a great song and I'll show you a guy that's written 20 bad ones.
right.
Or 50.
But
you
it's
know?
great to have people around you and that know your potential and how good you can write. And then if you have something that's maybe not so on par, they will call you on it.
Yeah.
Those are people you can trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to watch another clip of you guys, and I appreciate you being on
Thank
the
you
show,
so much.
Andy. Lucy, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
She's my little ballerina, a nutcracker that loves Marina. She's my prima donna, a full-fledged resistance fighter. She's mine. She's mine. She's mine. She's mine.
All right, we're back. For being a guest on the Chris Massey Atlanta Music Show, my guests Andy Browne and Lucy Theodora will receive a 6-month supply of Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat, a case of Turtle Wax, and a 6-pack of O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer. O'Doul's non-alcoholic beer for those times in life when you only need to look like you're having a good time. All right, the Chris Massey Band, we will be at the Moonshadow Tavern on November the 2nd. That is the only thing we have got lined up for the rest of the year, and we're going to start working on a new record and getting back into the studio probably next spring. So we'll be back next month. I do not know who the guests will be at this time, but I'll have somebody, that's for sure. All right, we'll see you next time.